Okay, so I'm gonna state the obvious, and I'm gonna be a really boring teacher, and I'm gonna bore you to death with what I'm gonna show you. But honestly, I'll try to throw something a little bit different in. But honestly, this is where the rubber meets the road, and this is where you have to be patient with yourself, and you've got to practice this stuff. Okay, so I'm going to talk about this, and the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to gag because you're going to be sick of it. But I have to. I've got to show you how I would go about drawing this young girl in a long duration type drawing. So the first thing that I would do is this. Okay. I would try to nail that. Now, she's cropped. So the second thing I would do is I can't get the other side of her head, so I'm going to look for this distance, and this is arbitrary. I can go with the cast shadow. I probably would deliberate over that for a little while and drive myself a little cuckoo. I could go with the edge of the head, or I can go with that shadow shape. But I'm going to go with the edge of the shadow shape, so I'm looking at that thickness. That's very important to me. So right away, if I go from that far line to that, look at how much thicker that is. And look at how this is more of a round. Okay? I'm being very generic, but this is important. Now, the next thing I'm going to go here, here, and the center part for me is everything, because that really helps me with the whole shape of the hair, shape of face. So your part is way over here. So if I pull a line straight down from the part, you see, this is the part of drawing a portrait and getting a likeness that's just not fun for a lot of people. I find this very fun because for me, it's not drudgery. It's more of like a challenge, okay? So there's a young kid, he's goes to school with my daughter. He lives down the block, and he's a long distance runner. And in an ideal world, I would love to be able to run. I just can't run. For me, it's like torture. And long distance running for me is torture. But for him, to just shorten his time a little bit is probably more of a challenge than drudgery. So look at where your center line is. So this is just something that you have to trick your brain into thinking it's a little bit more of like a contest to challenge yourself to see if you can get these measurements. Now let me get rid of those two lines because they're way too obtrusive. Oops. Okay, good. Now, the next thing that I would do once I get that part, I would pull that line down, but then I would just come on down with a gesture. And maybe I'd curve that around. This would be a loose gesture, okay, just so I establish the bottom. Now I start to work from the eyebrows, okay? And so I look at the eyebrow gesture, so it's this. And I always like to think of this part of the head as an upside down teacup. So now I look at, okay, let's check this out versus that, and what is longer. So you have that. That's good. But what you don't have is the width of the forehead. So I'm here to tell you that the edges of her hair are everything. Okay? Because what they do is they are the frame for her face. Very, very, very important that you understand that frame. And right now your frame is very different. But again, please understand, you are so close. It's not even funny. But do you see how this eyebrow is non-existent? And this eyebrow is looking pretty good to me. So this width here is huge. Not huge as in its size, but it's important. So your width is too big. That's really long. This is pretty long too. So once again, you're pretty close and you're doing a good job. So then I start to think about, okay, let's stop for a while with the edges. But at least now, what do I have? Well, I have my frame for where all the goodies are, all the rendering, all of the features, all the eyes. Now, if I want, and this is what I usually do, is I like to compartmentalize a part of the face. So I come here, here, to the tip of the nose, and I like to look at that distance. Okay? Now, yours is pretty good. It's not that bad at all. You're pretty close. The distance is a little bit longer, but not by much. And that's not going to dramatically change the likeness. It does touch on it, but it's not that bad. Now, once I get this in, then I just start to dive in to the features, and I start to say, okay, well, let's use a dark over here. Let's get this angle for the lash, and let's very softly get in the eye, and then let's get the angle of this lash and very softly get in that eye, and let's set the pupils so I get the width. Your width is pretty good. The next thing I would do is most definitely think about this as the side plane of the head, and I would do a gradation of tone. And maybe I'd come back to this eye and I would start to render it, and I'd start to build all the values up so I get confident with one area, and then I'd kind of move on over to this area, get that side plane, and I would kind of do the mouth last. And for me, the big thing with the mouth is corner to corner, get that tilt and get this distance. All right, so let's look at your piece all on its own with no lines, and this needs to kick in a little bit more. That was a sloppy line on my part, but you could push this. You could definitely push your piece. All right, and the thing that is way too wide is from here to here. This needs to be pulled in. Yeah. I'm going to leave you with one last thing, and this is where, and you're doing a really good job. I'm telling you, you're doing a good job. These are subtleties that make all the difference in the world. So this is where the rubber meets the road once again. Excuse me. Being able to look at that as a shape of a very, very non-contrasting value. Here's a shape of a very, very non-contrasting value. See how your shape is different? Like it feels a little bit more like that. So this is pretty good. So you're about like 75% there with all this stuff. See how here's a shape of a very non-contrasting value, and here's a shape of a non-contrasting value. And all of the edges of those shapes are very soft. Okay, here is a triangular shape, the side of the eyeball, lower eyelid. This I'm just feeling a little line over here. So these little details count. I could keep going for another half an hour to really break this thing down. And you are right that there are not a lot of shadow shapes, and there's not a lot of contrast in shadow shapes, but I recommend that you go forward with this and you really try to be very accurate with these shadow shapes, because if you can be accurate with these, they're very minor and they're very small and they're very non-contrasty. But if you can get these shapes, it's her. So it's this puzzle of shapes along with the edge. Now, yes, there's a ton of three-dimensional form, and there's not enough time to get into how to make the form be the form. I'm just showing you a couple of specific things that will dramatically help. Let's check out all of your pieces. Hey, thank you so much for watching that video critique. I thought it was really cool, and I just wanted to share it with you guys. There was a lot of really valuable information in that short critique. Listen, if you're interested in the same type of critique for your artwork, definitely consider a subscription to members.drawingtutorialsonline.com. We have a critique gallery here, which is just a fancy way of saying that we have a critique gallery that you can upload your work to, and we'll critique it. And don't worry, we've got members of every kind of stripe here. We've got beginners and we've got advanced students. Anyone could upload. It doesn't matter how long you've been drawing. What do we do? How do we do this? Well, we film video critiques and we upload the video critiques to our member-only blog, and members can come on over. You can see we've already got the video critique posted up for April 3rd, Monday. And you can just, if you're a member, you can kind of come on over here. You can watch the video critique full screen right over here on your iPad or on your computer, or you can download it and you can listen to it and watch it on your iPhone, whatever you want to do. So you can see we've got about 3 hours of video critiques here. This is a really viable option for you if you just don't have time to take a class, or you don't have access to a class. There's no art classes around where you live. This is a really great option. Even if you were to consider signing up for a subscription for 1 month, you can get feedback on your artwork if you're just stuck and you need somebody to say, okay, we'll do this moving forward, or this seems odd. Sometimes all it takes is one sentence from the teacher and it kind of changes everything for you. So I want to thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you soon. Be good.